It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello all.
How are you guys doing?
Peachy keen.
Hunkle a donkey.
What are you doing with a donkey?
Inner space. Never mind.
I have nothing to say.
Oh!
I know I couldn't fire off that one that fast. Not that early in the show. I just couldn't do it.
I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well,
I think we already know what's going on with Les.
When I'm not trying to make terrible jokes. Actually, my thing this week is actually Twitter related. A couple of weeks ago, I got, I guess you could say, invited into what is essentially like a huge DM stream on Twitter, which involves a whole bunch of indie podcasters and sort of in the vein of Potter & Family, although it's honestly a little more. It's kind of weird, as it actually includes a lot of the same people from the Potter & Family folks. I don't know. I've lost track of how many people are actually in this group, but it's been really cool because, well, one, they're just blowing up my Twitter on my phone almost constantly, which is fun by itself, but. It's just been a really cool experience to be kind of included in a part of that. It's really friendly. Everybody's really friendly, and it's just been really kind of helpful and supportive, and just doing a lot of sharing stuff, sharing each other's tweets and blasts and all that stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. And I mean, I actually am going to refrain from trying to list any of the podcasts involved. Like I said, there are a ton of them, and I will not be able to list them all because, like I said, I've kind of lost track. There's, I don't know, at least 30 or 40 different people in there from different podcasts around, and it has been a lot of fun.
Cool.
That is nice.
Yep. Sharon and Karen.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. How about you, Les?
Well, since we've got past the donkey, I started watching the Cartoon Network's program, Justice League Action, and I am thoroughly enjoying this. This is a fun, almost a retro feel to the animated series and the early other versions of DC cartoons. They're only 15 minutes long, so you can fly through their repertoire right now in probably like 9 hours. But they're good. They bring you in new characters almost every episode. Of course, one of the big draws is the voice of Kevin Conroy as Batman, and then so many different others that drop in and give you villains' voices as well as heroes. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm about a third of the way through.
It was interesting hearing Mark Hamill do Swamp Thing.
Yes, it was. Very, very different.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've seen some of them. I haven't. I think I've seen the first couple, but that's about as far as I've gone. I need to go back and check them out. But the ones I saw were kind of were kind of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, if you get the chance, it's worth the time.
There's just too much stuff to watch out there.
Yeah. Well, too much to read too.
I don't have time. I wish I did. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get to it someday.
Well, I actually have a bag of nothing this week. I was out on vacation trying to have some downtime, and as Mikey and Les know, that did not exactly happen. But I was hoping,
Vacation fail.
yeah. Well, just life kind of happened, so I wasn't able to get the R&R that I was hoping for. But that's kind of the way things go. So
You thought it was the 3-hour tour, right?
that's pretty much it. Yeah, I was kind of dealing with my own Gilligan too. So yeah. So oh well. But that's just the way things go. But I'm here back, and we're ready to move on. So
That's good.
Yep.
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 Yep. Yep. Alrighty. Before we get into this week's topic, I want to take a couple moments to thank our sponsors. And right off the bat, we want to thank Peter Sumeyye of Alterna Comics and his digital catalog, Make Mine Indie. The summer catalog is out now. We're actually getting close. It's almost time for a fall one. I would think one's supposed to come out in September, but I hadn't looked into it. It's usually right around when we actually have the equinox, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Mikey?
Yeah, usually.
Okay, so right around September 21st, 22nd, something like that, be the fall one. But the summer one's out now. 147 pages, full of previews, reviews, interviews, a lot of good stuff of titles that are either in print, digital, or web comics. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on our sponsors tab, you'll see information right there at the top for Make Mine Indie. I do want to take a couple moments to congratulate Peter. It was announced earlier this afternoon that all the titles for September have already sold out, and we're still in August, so that's awesome to hear. Some really good stuff. So while you're on our website, while you're there, go ahead and click on that link. You can download a free catalog, either as a CBZ file or a PDF. A lot of good material there. Mikey and I have had a chance to read and review some of the books. I know there's some that we were definitely interested in checking out, so you should do the same. So thank them for being a part of sponsoring us. I also want to thank Things from Another World for being a sponsor of the Fellowship. Some of the deals they're running right now is a massive 40% off of comic statues, toys, and merchandise. 30% off select pre-ordered manga titles. 50% off Nick and Dent comics. And there's other good deals that are going on right now. So if you scroll down to the bottom of our sponsors page, you'll see links to the special deals. Just click on those. That'll take you to the website. Let them know that we sent you the way, and hey, have at it. Get some good deals there, man. Alrighty. This week, it is Q&A time. This is our second Q&A episode. We did one a while back, and it was fun. I think you guys had fun with it too. So we requested questions from you out there, our audience, and then of course on social media. So we got a couple that we wanted to kind of go ahead and go over for this episode. And of course we're always looking for your questions, so we'll give you ways you can contact us later on in the show. So, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our questions. Our first one is from at Kensington underscore Gore. And the question is, I own a publishing company at Gore Publishing. Do you think horror comics sell well and can transfer to ebook? Who would like to go first?
Oh, I'll jump in.
Okay.
Um, Horror comics is, I don't know. It's fun because, well, mainly because I like them, but I'm starting to get the impression, and by all means, shoot me down here if you want to, guys. Horror comics are kind of moving closer to the mainstream at this point. I mean, right now, if you look at it, I mean, back in the day, you had, for the most part, like specific publishers that did horror comics. But nowadays, it's pretty much everybody. I mean, honestly, probably the biggest, currently the biggest purveyor of horror comics is probably Image, because I mean, now that we've gotten into like the creator-owned era, people can pretty much just do what they want. They can make the comic book they want and put it out there and see if they can get somebody to buy it. And if you can get somebody you get like effectively the number 3 comics publisher in the world, or at least in this country, to pick up and print your comic, then you're doing pretty good. And I mean, nobody's really laughing at The Walking Dead at this point. That's probably, I mean, at this point, it's probably the gold standard. Whether it's the best one out there or not, I don't know. I'm not that into zombie stuff, but I mean, Image is putting out horror titles all the time, even in addition to Walking Dead. And so, I mean, I'd say they've got a market for them, if nothing else. In terms of ebook, I mean, there's Comixology, and a lot of what gets printed gets released on ebook or in some sort of digital format as well. I mean, it's not that hard. I bought something not too long ago on Amazon. It was a graphic novel for my Kindle, because why not? And so I think we're at the point where it seems like the technology is there. It's at least a viable option. I mean, whether it's the best option or not, that's going to take probably a whole lot more research than our humble podcast is willing to do on the subject. But I think it's a very viable option. I mean, if you're willing to look into, as far as a publisher goes, if you're willing to look into what it takes to be accessible to, I mean, essentially even just Comixology, if it comes down to that, if you're just trying to break into it, I mean, obviously Amazon has stuff available. I mean, honestly, Amazon owns Comixology, I think, but
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the place to start if you're looking to get into breaking into digital comics. Comixology is pretty much where you have to start.
Right.
There are ways to go around that, but that's going to get complicated probably pretty quickly. You're going to need to know a lot more from a technical standpoint for that. But as far as the viability goes, I'd say yeah, it's very viable. There's a large and growing market for it.
Can it transfer to ebook? Yeah, I think so. I think you've done a pretty good job about explaining that. Do horror comics sell well? Yeah. As you said, I think there's more out there because there's obviously a demand for it. You mentioned Image. Dark Horse puts out quite a few horror books, and then there's some publishers that's all they do are horror books. I think there's always a need to be scared. That's why Stephen King has been around forever. Not only because he writes good books, but but there's the demand for it. That's why there's so many horror movies. I mean, we're seeing horror shows now.
Right, on broadcast TV. I mean,
on broadcast TV. So there's obviously a demand for horror stories of the horror genre, and comics is just another avenue. So yeah, there's a demand. So yeah, I think they sell pretty good. Let's talk about something you mentioned. You mentioned Image by name. Let's talk about some of the books they've been putting out. Redneck has gone to at least second printing, maybe third. Regression, Winnebago Graveyard. Those are more recent ones that are coming out. And you mentioned Walking Dead. Walking Dead is
still going strong.
In the 170s.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of issue numbers.
More than 10 years. Pretty much nonstop. Another one that I really enjoyed that just ended recently was Nailbiter.
Yep.
That was a whole lot of serial killer fun right there.
Hack and Slash is coming back in a couple of months. That's another one that's now at Image and has been for the last few years. It started elsewhere. It started with a couple of other publishers, but it's moved over to Image. That's another one. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like you got a good story and it's horror, then yeah, it's going to sell well. I think there's a demand, and if it's a good story, it's going to find its audience.
What I like about today's horror stories is they become so diverse, and as a result, they're more entertaining. You don't just have early issues of creepy or eerie to look at. You've got complicated plots, and that's where they shine. As far as expanding to an ebook, yes, do it. It's well worth the effort. Not everybody, believe it or not, wants physical copies. There is a subscriber at Thomas's store that gets the books. He downloads the book into his handheld so he can read anytime. And it's that way he has both, but it's both time saving and in his eyes cheaper to have both. The horror comic, I think, is a great thing, and to make it available to everyone through the electronic version is great. And this is from a man that didn't believe in electronic comics to start. I've seen more and more stuff, and I've enjoyed it. So just to open up the possibilities of getting your stuff out there,
yeah,
is great. Is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in there, but it's definitely another avenue in to get your product out to the audience. So yeah, you should definitely look at that.
Yep. It's all about accessibility.
Yeah.
See, and you talked about diversity, Les. I mean, yeah, it's unbelievable how many different essentially subgenres of horror there are, and that there are comics for all of them. I mean, how one of the things that Les, specifically, I'm picking on Les a little here. One of the things he's pointed out a couple of times recently is he'll find what are effectively horror comics aimed at kids, and they're like an all ages horror book. 20 years ago, there's no way in hell. It just was unheard of. And I mean, now it's like, hey, that's cool. You can I mean, for those horror fans who are out there breeding, you can you can break in your little podlings on. I wish I could remember the titles at this point, but I didn't think that far in advance.
Like Spook House.
Yeah, Spook House. That's actually yeah, that's like the most recent one you brought up. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was, what was the one? I don't. It's just too long ago. I don't remember. But there have been several over the last couple of years, especially, that have come out and have been really cool. I mean, we want to talk one that I'm just looking at on my desk right now. Lilith Dark it's an Alterna book, and it's effective. I mean, a lot of the quote unquote characters in this book are monsters. It's a horror book, but it's aimed at all ages. The protagonist of this story is a 6-year-old girl. That's awesome, and that's a great way to get in. It's a great way to expand your accessibility in a way. I mean, are you still going to do some of the harder core stuff? Sure. I mean, that's always going to be there, but that's just one way to kind of expand the thing, and it expands in other directions. I mean, there's all kinds of. I mean, you don't have to hang around with horror buffs or get on a horror website for very long to realize, oh my God, there's tons of different kinds of horror material out there, and I mean, everybody's kind of got their thing they like, and so it's expanded quite a bit in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, since I don't know, I guess it kind of started doing that in the 70s for the most part, and has just gone nuts in the best possible way.
Yeah. Well, you talk about, y'all both mentioned diverse. You just talked about Lilith Dark for Alterna. Let's look at some of the other books that they put out. You've got Croak, People Out in the Woods. What is that noise? You don't know what it is. And of course, you got Mother Russia, which is zombies. A zombie. Yeah, we're not fans of zombies, but this has been a really good book. The Chair. That's more psychological horror. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
So there's at least 4 right there off the top of my head from that publisher, and they're all good, and they're all accessible to anybody. So yes, they do sell well, and ebooks would be a great avenue. Just don't forget print, because you're going to leave for less.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, don't leave us out. That's not good.
Yeah, that's not good, because he will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we thank at Kensington_Gore for that question. Next one. This ought to be fun. At Wisdom of Fashion sent us this question. What is your favorite part of your podcast? Well, I know what's not Mike's favorite part.
That's true.
It's editing is time consuming, but it's not bad. I mean, my biggest problem is that it'll take up anywhere between 2 and 4 hours of my week editing the show. I mean, is that a huge price to pay? No. And is it miserable work? No. I mean, if I didn't like doing it, I wouldn't do it. It's pretty much that simple. I mean, I would find a way around it. I would weasel out of it somehow.
Right.
So it's not that bad. It's not my favorite part, no, but I don't hate it.
Okay. So what is your favorite part? I think we're going to all agree, so just go ahead and say it.
My favorite part is, I mean, in terms of, I thought of this in terms of like actually listening to our show. My favorite part is the picks.
Okay.
That to me is that for me that's kind of the heart and soul of the show. The rest of it is just us blathering about whatever we feel like talking about in a given week. But for my money, for what little there is, it's all about the comics themselves, generally speaking. It,
Okay.
we wouldn't be doing well. I mean, it's entirely possible we would be doing this if it wasn't for comics. But I mean, that's what we've kind of chosen to base this on. I mean, our kind of I keep using monetary metaphors here, but our bread and butter, because we don't make any money off of this, but our bread and butter for this show is the comics, and so for me, that's the important part. So I kind of take the picks as seriously as I take anything, really. But that to me is the part that matters. That's the part that if we had to whittle this show down to 10 minutes, my suggestion would be, well, we need to do the picks. The picks needs to be the show. That I mean, and whether we would end up arguing about it or not, it's possible. But that would be my stance. So that to me is the important part. And so I like that.
Okay.
I like looking at the books and figuring out trying to guess which ones are going to be really cool, because we're looking at them a little over. I mean, in all reality, we're looking at them a little over a week in advance. So we don't always have the best information as far as what's really coming out that week. Stuff gets updated like the next day after we record. So I mean, that's not the greatest timing, but we do all right. And so that to me, trying to figure out which ones, and just getting to talk about the books that I'm reading that I like is, I mean, obviously I'm going to enjoy that. So that's just a given.
Right.
But yeah, so the picks.
Okay. Les?
There are two places. One is when we get sidetracked. I just love it. I turn off my mic so I can sit and giggle at some of the stuff that gets tossed out there. And I'm part of it too. But it is so much fun to look at it in a very humorous manner. The second thing I like about the podcast is someone coming up and making a statement about it. You had somebody in the store today, Thomas, that made a statement about the podcast.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you had the veteran that came in, and he was telling us that he was basing some of his choices on what he heard the broadcast put out. That's why he tried some titles. And to get a positive that way was fun.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what he was speaking about, was picking up items that had been discussed on the podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes me feel great.
Yep.
You mean books that we picked?
Yes. Yes. And it wasn't damning when he said it. It was like, you guys did a good job.
Yeah, it wasn't like in spite of you jackasses.
That's right. We avoided that one this time.
Woo.
Yeah, I do like when things kind of go off the rails a little bit. One of the things that has always been tough for me ever since we first started, even back doing the webcast several years ago, was coming up with subject material. You know, sometimes we're lucky enough that something happens that, oh, that would be great to discuss, that kind of thing. But sometimes it's really hard to come up with some subject matter, especially when you're doing something weekly. So, you know, I sit here and I come up with, well, okay, this is what's going to be our topic, and I have already have a set of what I want to say, what I would like to cover, and So when we make a emergency left turn, that's great because all of a sudden I'm out. I'm out. So now I'm starting to be more reactionary, and I'm sure that comes across in our recordings too. But
No, dude, that's why I edit. Remember?
Okay.
Oh, wow.
No, I
Nice.
mean in terms of because honestly, if you ever listen to an unedited one of our shows, there are like huge gaps of silence at times, and we're like, oh shit, I can't remember. Oh, blah, blah. I cut out a lot of that stuff. Oh crap, what was the name of that thing? Oh geez, and yeah, so that's the stuff I'm talking about cutting out.
Right. But it can be fun because all of a sudden,
You're thinking on your feet.
yeah, thinking on my feet, and that's where a lot of our humor comes from.
That and really bad movie references, like the one I nearly destroyed the beginning of the show with. But anyway, Clerks 2, man. Clerks 2.
hmm But just the whole recording in general. Mikey and Les know this, that there's been several times where it's coming up to the time for us to record, and there are times where I don't want to do it. I'm sure they feel the same way. It's just like, rather just kind of sit and maybe read a book or watch TV or something like that. And then when we're through recording, that was a blast. That was fun. That was great. I needed that.
I have lost track of the number of times you have said that right after we cut recording.
Yeah.
It has been a lot.
And I'm sure y'all feel that too sometimes.
Well, yeah. For me, what I'll call my stage fright, usually it's most of the day before, because we record in the evenings because at least two of us have day jobs. So I usually spend some time like thinking about the topic during the day. I'll like take small breaks at work. Don't tell them. And kind of sort of get in my head where we're going to go with it. And I will get to the point where I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do this all that much today. It's just and blah, and that's like I said, that's kind of my version of stage fright. And then we get going, and it all comes out great. And I usually am. One of the problems I have is, like I said, we record in the evenings, and I get so pumped by the recording that by the end, I have trouble going to sleep afterwards. I have to sit up for an hour or two sometimes after we record. And
well, in fairness, you have problems going to sleep anyway.
well, yeah, there's the natural insomnia, yeah, but and then I have to get up at like a ridiculous hour in the morning to go to said day job. And I mean, sometimes those Wednesday mornings are rough because I did not sleep enough on Tuesday night. And so that's tricky. But I mean, where I think you were originally going with, we're all going to have the same answer. I mean, ultimately the recording part of it is, this is just three friends talking about stuff. And
Right.
that's fun. I mean, even for three introverts like us, it's still fun. I mean, we just had the weird idea to record it somewhere along the line. But it's just three friends talking about stuff, talking about comics and movies and whatever other silliness we can come up with. And that's just fun.
And it comes across, I hope. When I listen to them, obviously I'm enjoying them, but then again, I also am remembering, oh, okay, yeah, this was going on, that kind of stuff. I've gotten feedback. I hope you guys have too, of people enjoying our shows, and it's very much appreciated. They can be fun. We do make some people think. Some things maybe not. They may think how crazy we are, but
yeah, thinking about contacting the authorities and getting these idiots locked up in an asylum somewhere. Sure, I mean that's thinking.
Yeah. But in the end, we're having fun, and that's really all that matters.
Right, and like you said, hopefully that comes across, and hopefully listeners are having fun too. I mean, I'd do it whether we had listeners or not, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad we do have some listeners, but whatever. I'm glad for those of you listening. I am glad you're enjoying it, but I mean, we're doing this for us too. I mean,
Right.
like I said, we're always willing to take suggestions. I mean, seriously, we really are. We'll try stuff out, but ultimately, we're going to do what feels right for us, and hopefully, y'all continue to be along for the ride. You know.
Exactly. Alrighty. That was fun. Any final thoughts before we move on? Other than thank you once again for the questions. We were just wanting to stick with 2, kind of like we did last time, but we're always open for more questions. So, if you got anything you want to
send us silly ones, send us serious ones, whatever you want to send us. It's
Yep.
cool.
Exactly. The door is always open for those kind of those questions. So just go ahead and send them to us.
Yep.
Any final thoughts from you, Les?
I wish we had the T-shirt we could send that person. That was a great question, because it does let us go a little bit too. That yeah, we enjoy each other's company and we enjoy comics and reading and all that stuff too. Makes a difference.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll end up with a T-shirt. We'll see.
Maybe. I think both questions were really good, and we do appreciate those being sent our way. Thank you very much, guys.
Yep.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we are going to go with that. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with Mikey's favorite part of the show, picks. And we're back. It is time for weekly picks, and hey, Mikey leads off.
Hey, I lead off. Well, I'm going to lead off. Hey.
Hey.
I'm going to lead off.
You got a donkey there or something?
Oh, gosh. No, I don't.
I think we know what the title is this week.
I will be real surprised if it doesn't have something to do with a donkey. But anyway, I'm leading off with an IDW book. And this is the long-awaited return of Samurai Jack. This is entitled Quantum Jack. This is number 1 of 5. And for those of us who are fans of Cartoon Network when it first started out and was doing some new and interesting stuff, obviously Samurai Jack is a big favorite. And it's been a little while, like I said, since the last series. And so I'm ready to see where they're going to take it. They are touting that it is different and yet surprisingly familiar. So I'm looking forward to seeing how. I'm looking forward to seeing what that means.
Yeah, this would be cool. Is Zub riding it?
No.
I didn't catch that. Okay.
No. Fabian Wrangle?
Okay.
That's
okay.
What it says. This is what this says. I mean.
Okay.
I hope they go back to their previous, or one of their previous versions, and not the let's do everything for a joke, do a panel, joke is in the next panel, do a panel, joke is in the next panel. I think that this could go on pretty well if they stick closer to the production of the TV series.
Yeah, because it wasn't particularly jokey. It was, I mean, as far as Cartoon Network was concerned, it was a pretty serious show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
yes.
It usually works best when they do that. I agree.
Alrighty. Les, you are next.
My first choice is Rocket Girl, number 9, written by Brandon Montclair, art by Amy Reeder. This is out by Image Comics. It's a really good series about a young girl who is from the future, and she is a cadet in the police force. When she comes back in time, she's got to adjust to things, yet she does have a mission. So it's an all-out action book. It's a really good read, and even Mark Millar says that I bloody love this book. So if you get a chance, find the trades, find back issues, but try to catch up for Rocket Girl.
Yeah, this is one that I kind of wish their production schedule was a little better. Because it is way behind. I mean, they're only on issue 9. This has been going on for 2 years. I mean,
yeah, there was like a year break.
Yeah,
something like that.
It makes it hard to keep up. But I remember reading the first few, and it was really interesting. But I just got lost in I basically just lost track of it because it was taking so long for issues to come out. But hopefully they're over that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully it's found its footing and can take off from there. No pun intended. Okay, for my first choice, I'm going back to IDW. And it's Star Wars Adventures. Yes, IDW is putting out a book, a Star Wars comic. It's written by Kevin Scott and art by Derek Charm. This is an anthology book, or at least there's going to be 2 stories in each issue. For this one, the main story features Rey, and then the backup stories having to do with something going on during the Clone Wars. Hey, it's Star Wars. It's got to be fun, and it's supposed to be an all ages books, which is a good thing. If there's anything I think the 3 of us would agree on, is there needs to be more all ages books of any genre. I mean, Mike mentioned Lilith Dark earlier being an all ages horror book, but yeah, even sci-fi and fantasy, and obviously they're superheroes and that kind of stuff. But anything that kind of brings in the younger generation to read comics or just read in general, it's a good thing.
Yep.
So this should be fun.
It should be interesting for sure.
Yep. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay, my second pick is a Dynamite book, and this is actually the final issue of the arc. It is number 6 of the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys title, and so this is kind of they've been kind of trying to figure out who killed the Hardy brothers' father, and this has been interesting in that it is not. It's actually kind of not the all ages title you would expect from the subject matter. This is it is definitely a modernized version of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, and it's also kind of a PG-13 version as well, because it's interesting in that it's, like I said, not what I expected when I started reading it, and it actually has turned into a pretty decent crime story. I have enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they wrap it up.
Yep, it's not your father's or grandfather's Nancy and Hardy Boys, so nope. It's been an interesting book, definitely.
You don't think they're going to leave it open or anything?
Oh, I think they may very well leave it open, at least to a second arc, but I don't know. I don't know how open they're going to be able to leave the whole murder thing. I think they're going to have to wrap something up.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to solve the mystery, but I could definitely see them continuing have them solve more cases and that kind of thing. But who knows?
Sure.
Alrighty, Les.
My second choice comes from Image also. It's Kingsman, The Red Diamond. This is issue 1 of 6, brought to you by Rob Williams, Simon Fraser, and Dave Gibbons. This is the sequel to the story of about, 5-6 years ago? First brought out by Mark Millar and made into the movie that we all hopefully have seen. It's well worth a sit down for this one, because they do return with several of the characters from the original story, and in so doing they have something a little different, my understanding, than the new movie that comes out in September. This is the story of Eggsy. Once again, he's the young man that became a Kingsman in the first series. He is now on a rescue mission to save Prince Philip. And in this, you've got an international terror plot and several other things which were handled real well in the first story. So I'm excited to see how they step forward in this one.
Yep, and if you have not read the original miniseries, it's actually being collected by Image as well, and I believe comes out the same week.
I think so.
Right? If not, it's right around there. It may be the following week, but yeah, it's kind of get you ready for the new movie. So yeah,
that might be the motivation there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. For my second choice, I am going with Image as well. And it is the second issue of Elsewhere, written by Jay Ferber and art by Sumeyye Kingsman and Roy Riley. I'm sorry, I butchered the names.
I think you get Roy Riley pretty good, but okay.
Well, why don't you try to pronounce the other one then?
I'm just kidding you.
Yeah.
I'm welcoming you to Under the Bus with me.
No, that's your territory. I don't infringe on other people's territory. So, really loved the first issue, and of course the ending was just kind of a okay. This could be interesting. But, for those who've not checked out the first issue, first off, why did you not? You need to go do it. It's Amelia Earhart in a fantasy world after she disappeared. And I think I mentioned to Les, or I mentioned to someone, it's kind of interesting to see how how quickly she adapted to that world. It seemed to fit in about as well as one can expect. You figure she'd be a little bit more shell shocked, but it was a fun ride. This could be a very fun series, and like I said, that ending of that first issue was definitely one that was an eyebrow raiser, and kind of go, oh, okay, yeah, I see where we're going here. So
yeah, she covered that book covered a lot of that first issue covered a lot of ground, and so yeah.
And surprisingly, it didn't feel like it was rushed.
No, it didn't.
No.
It seemed like it was fast paced, but it wasn't overly done. For sure.
Yeah, it didn't feel like you're going, oh man, that was way too much information for one book. Mm-hmm. It was. Believe me, we've read some that were like, man, we could use a little bit more information here. Nothing really happened. Yeah,
right. Very
and
true.
that's sad for our first issue. When you're going, okay, there's not enough here for you to go okay, where are we going with this? Or what's going on? That's bad when that kind of thing happens.
It's harder. Yeah, that makes it hard to draw people into the second issue, and
Yep.
that's no good.
Yep.
Yeah, with this one, they gave you just enough cliffhanger to make you wonder what was going the Pharrell on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, it is honorable mention time, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My honorable mention is an image book. It is a trade. In fact, it is volume 5 of Manifest Destiny. This is a book that I throw back out here every so often just because it's just fun. It's just brutal. Oh man. It is the story, or a variation on the story, of the Lewis and Clark expedition, except that there are monsters out there. I mean, and kind of a lot of them, really. And some of them are really large, and all of them are very scary and very deadly. And in Volume 5, they kind of hole up for the winter, just because they're not gonna. It's 1804. They're not gonna travel a whole lot in the winter. That just didn't happen back then. It was difficult. And so it's one of those kind of enclosed space type stories, and it gets really, really fun, and it gets really brutal. I like this title. It's definitely not. It's not an all ages book. We'll put it that way, but it is a lot of fun, and it takes some interesting liberties with the history, but it's an alternate history story, so it's going to do that. And it does so in some really fun ways. I really enjoy this one.
It has such a claustrophobic feel. It's downright scary.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it strikes me. That's where the horror of the story is.
Yep. It's amazing what you can do with 4 walls and a little bit of fog.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Les.
For my mention, it is The Black Beetle, Kara Boschek. This is by Dark Horse Comics, written and drawn by Francesco Francavilla. This is a collection of a story that ran in Dark Horse Presents for 5 issues. This is a character that Francavilla has done before. They are mysteries. He is a investigator of sorts, but he does have the cape, cowl, secret identity type feel to it too. In this one, Black Beetle goes to the Middle East to fight Nazis, to find about a terrible weapon that the Nazis may have. The weapon is of unknown origin and could fuel the 1,000-year Reich. So once again, like I said, I've read the previous stories that were in single issues. This looks like a good gathering for this one.
Yeah, Black Beetle's pretty cool.
Yep.
And the art is, of course, amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. I had forgotten that Francesco had done the art for Black Panther when he took over Daredevil's title all those years back. It was called Black Panther, The Man Without Fear. But it was Black Beetle that really brought where I made the connection. So of the name and the character and the art style and all that, and I've become a big fan of his work, writing and illustrations, and so yeah, I'm glad to see that this has been collected, and I would highly recommend it to anybody
Yep, fun stuff.
Yep. Alrighty, for my honorable mention, I am going to Action Lab Entertainment. And it's the first issue of a new ongoing series, The Stray. I think we've mentioned The Stray. We may have... I know we did during the Actionverse little mini-series that they put out I guess about a year ago. But this is written by Vito Delasante, with art by Lee Gaston, Chris O'Halloran, Wilson Ramos, and Sean Zaski. So this is continuing Roddy's adventures from this is a superhero book, but it's got the feel of some of the mainstream books, but it's not. You've got the feel of the legacy and all that. It's a fresh take on the superheroes, and it's a brand new. For most people, it's going to be a brand new universe to them. I would highly recommend it. The miniseries was incredible, and which was the Stray miniseries was great. The Actionverse, if you want to check into that, that's where it kind of introduced some of the other or kind of ties in the heroes from other books into one kind of somewhat of a shared universe. But I would highly recommend getting the trade. It's been out for over a year or so, and then definitely picking this up. This could be a fun book.
I agree. The first one was a really good, solid read. So I've got high hopes for this one too.
Yep.
Alrighty. Any special mentions this week? Special mentions or shout outs or that kind of thing?
Well, I think we should at least mention the whole Hurricane Harvey thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are in Texas, but we are not anywhere near what all of that is. So, I mean, obviously our thoughts are with the folks who are still, in all honesty, treading water in some cases in their own homes down in the Houston area and the surrounding areas, like 100 miles in any direction from Houston. Where we are, we're like 300 miles from, honestly, the closest place that's affected would be easily 250, 300 miles from where we are. So we're okay, but we would like for them to be okay too. And so, obviously, hopefully they will be able to get all of that. Well, hopefully it'll stop raining soon. That'd be nice. And start getting everything back in order down there.
Yeah, definitely. If you can donate, whether it's just a couple of bucks or whatever you can, help them out, because this has been bad. This is one for the history books. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are going to be hurting for a while, unfortunately. Any other special mentions or acknowledgements?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Nothing here.
Okay. I've got two. One personal and one not so much. I'll do the first one I want to do is, I think we ought to, us being horror fans, I think we have to acknowledge the passing of Tobe Hooper. He passed away just a couple of days ago at the age of 74. That's a shocker. And I really got scared. I don't know if you saw it, Mike. There was several people had tweeted a picture of Hooper with Romero and John Landis, and the first thing everybody was saying was, "Oh God, is John okay?" Like, no, John Landis is still with us. Please don't jinx it. Some great classic films. Obviously, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Life Force,
Poltergeist.
guys. We could keep on and go on. That's what I was saying. It's you just can't name them all because there's just so many of them. You feel stupid for leaving one out. So that's another devastating loss to the horror genre, losing him.
Yep.
Um, and on a personal note, Les and I lost a friend over the weekend as well. He wasn't a listener to the podcast, but he had been a customer at the store. He was great to talk to. He was old school. He was so we've had talks about how things were back in the old days and that kind of stuff, and we talked about movies and that kind of thing. He had been ill for some time. His name is Charlie Stubbs. So he was a friend. He was a friend of us. So I was surprised. I really thought he would. I thought he would really turn around and be on the mend, but unfortunately that was not the case. So our condolences are obviously with Toby Hooper's family and friends, and then of course our friend Charlie with his family and loved ones. So.
Yep, it's a tough one.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's do our regular shout outs then. Move on before I start tearing up. First, as usual, Mandy the Martyr for the awesome music that we use for our podcast. You should definitely check them out. There'll be a link in our show notes. And if you go to our podcast page on the main website, you'll see their logo, and you just click on that, and that will take you. They put out 2 albums, I believe, so you should be able to listen to all their incredible music. So thank you guys, thank you very much. Second of all, the wonderful men and women of Potter and Family on Twitter. Mikey kind of mentioned this is a little bit of a different group than what Mikey mentioned, but it's a lot of them are the same people of podcasters who retweet links for podcasts for other people. They've been supporting us from the get-go, pretty much, and it's very much appreciated. I'm trying to do better. I know Mikey's doing a bang-up job, but I'm trying to get out there and retweet links and that kind of thing. I just gotta get better.
I'm better at it because I have a smartphone, and so I have Twitter on my phone, and so it's easier for me. And
okay.
So, that's I knew that was going to be the deal, or at least part of it. So, we're good.
Well. Yeah, but I'm working on it. I got to do it too.
Okay. Cool.
Or I need to do it too. Not I got to do it. I need to do it. Let's get the right phrasing here. Because I don't want to make it sound like it's a chore. It's just something I just you kind of get in. So if there's any kind of podcast that you're interested in, just go to Twitter and do a search. #Potter and Family. You don't necessarily have to have an account. You don't have to. And, oh my God, tons of podcast links or tweets are going to pop up. And just check it out. Check them out. And you'll have a good time. Just knock yourself out. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. Thank you for checking out our prior episodes. It's very much appreciated. We value your feedback. You can contact us in several different ways. You can go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and fill out the contact form on our About Us page. You can send us an email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can contact us through social media. We're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. That's all one word. Feel free to like us, and then you can send us a message if you like to. Obviously, we're on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. Mikey and I have our own personal Twitter accounts. Mike is at Mikey Geek, and I am at Tom TC Geek. Feel free to follow us there and give us a shout out, and we'll respond in kind. And wherever you download our episodes, whether it's through iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or just listen to us on YouTube, it would be much appreciated if you'd rate us through whatever system they have, whether it's thumbs up, thumbs down, stars, whatever else. And if you have a couple extra moments, a review would be awesome as well. No question of the week this week, but like we said earlier, we're always looking for questions. So if you have something you want us to answer, please send it through the various means that I just went through, and we will definitely use it for a future episode and obviously do a shout out to you. Once again, we want to thank at Kensington_Gore and at Wisdom of Fashion for their questions for this week. Thank you guys very much.
Yep, we had a lot of fun answering those.
Yep, it was fun. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay. Final thoughts before we say goodnight.
I think just thanks, everybody.
Same here. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the questions.
Thank you. Yes, definitely thank you for the questions. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a follower of us. It's very much appreciated. Hope that y'all have a good week. And until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,